Welcome aboard to NJ.com, our Ask Politi chat. Our sports columnist Steve Politi is with us here to answer some of your questions, and it's been quite a crazy week of New Jersey sports, as it always is. A big, really great win for Rutgers on Saturday in Maryland, and then of course we're just getting through this NFL season. Steve, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Joe. How are you?
Doing well. Let's start with Rutgers. A lot of the questions we've got coming in about that Rutgers win. First, just take us through, at what point of that game Saturday afternoon, early Saturday evening, did you actually think they might come back and actually win the game?
When it was over. No, I'm kidding. I tell you, at 35-10, I thought there was absolutely no chance. I thought it was good that they got the late touchdown, a couple of breaks when the roughing the kicker, and then the interception was called back for a Gary Nova pass. They scored a touchdown. All right, it's end of the half. You think, okay, they can score in the first drive of the second half. Maybe you can get some business. And then they had the great return by Janarian Grant. All of a sudden, now it's a two-score game, and it just started to snowball. And really what amazed me the most is the way the defense played. I mean, you knew the offense could score, and Maryland's not a great defensive team. The fact that defense came up with one big stop after another late in that game was really impressive considering how bad it had been for the first half. So, I think that really was a special win for that team. And the fact that it ended the season, I think, made a big difference in how you felt about the season.
Steve, you bring up the defense there, which is kind of the juxtaposition. So bad early, so good late, making plays to kind of finish that game. The first two questions we got were about the defensive coordinator here for Rutgers, and really should they look to upgrade? Is his job safe here? I mean, they haven't played great defense all year long, but I think they did enough here considering, they had some difficult opponents. They were going to just put up a lot of points on them, really, no matter what he did, I think.
Yeah, but there are some. I can see the point people are making. There's some, that giving up 330 yards to the kid from Indiana. He's a great back, but still, there are a couple of performances, a lot of missed tackles, a lot of missed assignments, a lot of confusion. I can see where they're coming from. I guess I just come back to how many straight years are you going to change potentially both coordinators? If Ralph Friesen retires, you'd be looking for an offensive coordinator too. There's a certain point where consistency matters a little bit as well. They liked this guy last year. I think there clearly are still some personnel issues on defense. I don't know what Kyle Flood's going to do, but I do wonder if he's like, all right, this is a good young coach. Let me see if we get some more horses in here and figure this one out again, as opposed to going for another search for another coordinator.
Steve, as we get set here for the bowl season and where Rutgers might find themselves here, we have a question. Which of these bowls carries the most prestige? It's not going to be the Rose Bowl. It's not going to be the Sugar Bowl for Rutgers here, but of the options, of the potential bowls, which one to you kind of has the best feel to it, as Rutgers is going to end up somewhere here likely?
Right. Well, the problem is that there's a lot. There are some scenarios where they could be scrambling. I know Keith Sargent has written a couple great stories about this last couple of days, but if Ohio State beats Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, there is a likelihood that there will be more eligible Big Ten teams than Big Ten bowls. And if that's the case, and if Rutgers is the last team, it's going to get interesting. I'm not saying they're definitely going to get shut out. I'd be very surprised still at this point that they wouldn't get a bowl. But at 7-5, they might have to be scrambling to find an at-large spot for them to play, which I think would be very disappointing, especially since there's so much hope. And as you mentioned, I thought initially when they beat Maryland that it would open up a door to like the Music City Bowl, which is a good game against an SEC opponent on a good date. Nashville's an underrated city. If you were making a post-holiday trip, my in-laws are from down there in Cookeville, Tennessee, so I go down there a lot. If you're making a trip after the holidays, you could do a lot worse than Nashville. That to me looked like a good one. Of course, the one that a lot of Rutgers fans wanted was the Foster Farms Bowl. It's in San Francisco, which of course, I was rooting for that as well. But it looks like they are not interested in the Scarlet Knights, so that would not be a potential landing spot. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens here. The likely destination might be the Heart of Dallas Bowl, which again is 11 a.m. the day after Christmas against a cruddy opponent. It would be a bad landing spot, a disappointing landing spot. So we still have to see what shakes out here in the coming days.
The next question was which of these bowls could draw the most Rutgers fans to travel. I think the last one you mentioned, the Heart of Texas, Heart of Dallas Bowl, that would seem like the one no one's going to want to go to.
No, 11 a.m., day after Christmas, that's going to be a tough sell in Dallas. Obviously the Pinstripe Bowl, but they're very much set on taking Penn State. I think from everything you've read or heard, I don't think that Rutgers would have done poorly in Nashville. I think they'd do quite well in a game that's a little further after Christmas. I think there are enough alumni around that they might even do well in Detroit. I mean, it's an easier city to get to. There's a chance that Michigan, there'd be more people coming from different locations from Rutgers graduates around that area. So, you're right though. The heart of Dallas would be the tough sell.
We'll jump to the NFL here, Steve. You wrote a column this morning about how bad you combine the Giants and the Jets in the years they're having. One of the worst years in New York football has seen, maybe ever. And it doesn't look like it's getting any better this last month. The first question we get on the NFL, I mean, they're coming out swinging. Is Tom Coughlin safe here? To me, it's hard to call him safe, but the question is being asked about Tom a lot. Where do you think this is heading with the Giants and Tom Coughlin? 11 years, 2 championships. He's done a great job, but yes, it's gone bad lately.
Yeah, it's a very interesting decision that John Mara has to make. I mean, they did this last year where they changed offensive coordinators and they thought they were to give Tom another chance to remake this. Clearly, it didn't work. So now, I mean, do you do it again? Do you fire Perry Fuel, the defensive coordinator, bring in another coach, give another year for Coughlin? I wonder if this gets ugly in the last few weeks and it's not just a total overhaul. And it'll never be a situation where Tom Coughlin is just summarily kicked to the door in the way that Tom Landry was back in the day. He's too much. This is too much of a classy organization. They'll find a way to get him a role in the front office, or make it so it's a little less jarring than Tom Coughlin is fired. But I think you'd have to think at this point that that's very much on the table, that the Giants would have a new coach next year.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like this might have run its course. It happens to all these great coaches. It seems at some point it ends, and that leads to the next question. The Giants have never gone into a game since 2004 without both Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin. I think Eli's played okay. The Niners game was awful, but I think he's played okay this year, better than last year. I mean, his contract number is big for next year, so it would behoove them to give him an extension if they're going to keep him around. Where do you think the Eli thing is going here?
Yeah, I think you've got to give him an extension, or you've got to find a way. I don't know. I just don't. If you look around the league, I mean, look at Florham Park, look at the Jets. I mean, they're just teams. There are not 32 good NFL starting quarterbacks, and Eli has been. She struggled. He's made some bad throws. He is not, on that top 5, top 10 level, but. They did win 2 Super Bowls with him. He's shown he's capable. He's still, relatively young, got a lot of good years ahead of him. I would be very surprised if they go in a different direction.
Steve, you mentioned the Jets and Geno Smith. What were your thoughts on that game plan on Monday Night Football? Ooh. They almost won the game, but at times it felt like Geno Smith didn't play.
It really did. It was like I called it, instead of the no huddle offense, was no quarterback offense. But I mean, in some ways you got to credit Rex Ryan for trying something. Clearly, he was trying to win. I just wonder though. I mean, the whole point of this playing Geno Smith was to evaluate him for next season. If you're not going to let him throw, you can't do that fairly. It's just not. It doesn't work. And they're throwing 8 passes. Until the last 2-minute drive, and they passed up. Again, the Dolphins, they're an NFL team. They get caught up eventually and start stacking the box. And even then, the Jets were so hesitant to drop back, and they have protection issues. And you thought there'd be a play action opportunity there. And then the one throw that Geno had to make, he had Percy Harvin wide open on a little corner route, and he missed him. So, I mean, it was just another frustrating loss for poor Rex. He's got to be thinking, here's a guy who really did some good things for the Jets, just never had a quarterback. He must look at Bill Belichick and say, why can't I have a guy like that for a week? But it's just never been.
No, it hasn't been, and they're going to go into this last month here irrelevant. The Giants too, and back to your column. I mean, there were some lean years kind of there in the mid '90s before Parcells came in with the Jets and the Giants. Fossil got them going in the right direction for a little bit there, but this is. I mean, we're looking at 2 teams that could win, 2-3 games apiece if they don't win again in this season.
Yeah, I got to feel like, I mean, look at the schedule. I think there's a couple opportunities for them to win. I did the math, and they got 5 combined wins. The lowest ever is 6, and that happened a couple of times. It happened in the era when they played 14 games. So the worst year on the books was 76, and it was like a disastrous football year where Lou Holtz was the Jets coach, and he resigned with 1 game to go, and the Giants changed coaches midseason. They both were 3-11. if it tops that, I mean, that's a pretty remarkable accomplishment in this era of parity. For these two teams to do worse than that, even if they match it, it's still incredible. I mean, it really does speak to just how bad this football season has been.
It certainly does. It's been an awful one, and we have a month to go. We'll see what happens. Jump into a little baseball. So you got a column recently before we popped on today about the Yankees. They went out and made a move today. Derek Jeter's replacement, Didi Gregorius. Not exactly.
I didn't have him in the pool, Joe. Didn't have him.
No, I don't think many of us did. But he's the guy now, a young guy from Arizona. But basically, what you said was he's a cheap guy, which means the Yankees might, go out here and do something else.
I don't know. It's a guess, and Brian Cashman has played it pretty close to the vest, and he said, they did spend $458 million last year, so it's not obviously they can't do that again. No franchise can, but you do wonder if they solve a problem on the cheap, and he is signed through 2020. I believe he makes like $500,000. If they seem to be turning away from Chase Headley, who would be an expensive option at third. You just wonder if they're setting themselves up to get another top-line starting pitcher, or at least another very good starting pitcher. And they almost have to. You've got three guys who are going to be the top of the rotation who've all had major arm issues in the past few years. You have a lot of questions on the back end. I think if the Yankees are really going to be a contender, they have to get at least one, maybe two good starting pitchers. Will they do it at the Max Scherzer level, John Lester level? I don't know, but this does make you think a little bit. Well, maybe they're saving a bullet for later.
And we've seen this before. I remember a few years ago, more than a few years now, but it was when Johnny Damon was a free agent. The Yankees needed a center fielder, and they kept saying, no, we're not going to spend. And then all of a sudden, January came around, and they're having a press conference.
Yeah, that's right. It certainly is their DNA to do that. So maybe they're playing chicken with some of the free agents. The problem is the competition has become, everybody's signing players these days, and everybody's seems to be spending a lot of money. So that does change things a little bit, but you never know.
We will see. The last one for you, Steve, here. No Rutgers this weekend, obviously off until we find out about their postseason hopes. More interested to watch, Jets-Vikings or Giants-Titans?
Ohio State, Wisconsin. Can I pick that one?
I'll let you have that one.
But the big, I might be raking the leaves, Joe. I got to be honest. Those are two pretty bad games. I mean, I guess
they're on at the same time, so you go out from 1 to 4, and then it's over.
You could flick back and forth. Yes, it could be. They could both win this weekend, which would be crazy. But I wouldn't bet on that either.
I wouldn't either. Steve, appreciate some time today. Thanks for answering all the questions. We'll do this again soon.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
There he goes. Ask Politi on NJ.com.